Hello，朋友们，Good morning. Welcome to today's study with me. 今天呢，我们有2个任务。第一个任务呢，是把前2天还没看完的那篇文章呢，其实我在昨天事后已经看完了。那我们今天呢，就是快速的把它全文读一遍，大声的朗读。希望朋友们呢，在另外一边也可以跟我一起，因为大声的读英语呢，对于我们训练我们的语感以及口语的这个 pronunciation 都是会非常有帮助的。那邀请大家和我一起来读，我们会快速的把它读一遍，然后呢，去 go through 我们通过这篇文章之前记下来的生词以及词组。那完成这一部分的内容之后呢，我们会来看另外一篇文章。那我已经为大家挑选了。好，那就话不多说，我们赶紧开始我们今天的 Study English 的这个过程吧。我把我的屏幕已经 share 给大家了。我们还是读这篇文章。China's shipyards are ready for protracted war. Americans aren't. Okay. China emerged as a global power by turning itself into the world's factory floor. It is expanding that power and its military might with another striking industrial feat, becoming the world's shipyard. More than half of the world's commercial shipbuilding output came from China last year, making it the top global shipmaker by a wide margin. The once prolific shipyards of the West that helped forge empires, expand trade, and win wars have shriveled. Europe accounts for just 5% of the world's output, while the US contributes next to nothing. Most of what China doesn't build comes from South Korea and Japan. The scale of China's shipbuilding is just almost hard to fathom, said Thomas. These people, whose research focuses on maritime competition, the degree to which it dwarfs American shipbuilding is just unbelievable. This shipbuilding empire is a symbol of China's historic transformation from an inward-looking continental nation to a maritime power. But it is more than that. It is a pivotal strategic asset for Beijing as Chinese leader Xi Jinping tries to reshape the world's order in peacetime and prepares to prevail over his nation's rivals during war. Giant Chinese shipbuilding firms that crank out merchant ships for the world are often the same ones building warships from China's Navy. Their shipyards are thriving with billion-dollar contracts pouring in not just for warfighting gray holes, but also for container ships, oil tankers, and bulk carriers for shipping lines from China, the West, and even Taiwan. With their order books full for years to come, the shipyards have expanded, trained enormous pools of workers, and built sprawling supply chains. China's military planners have leveraged all that to build up the world's largest navy in whole count, a force central to Xi's greatest ambitions of projecting power overseas, protecting the sea lanes that connect China to the world, and absorbing Taiwan. America's once robust shipbuilding industry have shrunk. It no longer produces any significant number of commercial ocean-going ships. Several shipyards have only one big customer, the Navy, and those shipyards are often battling backlogs, worker shortages, and paucity of suppliers and cost overruns. The major difference between the Chinese and American shipbuilding industrial basis is that China benefits from a massive commercial shipbuilding workload. Someone said to the Congressional Subcommittee in May when he was the Program Executive Officer for ships in the U.S. Navy. Meanwhile, he said, the U.S. government largely goes along bearing all the costs of the ships and associated infrastructure. Clearly, China's commercial shipbuilding industry provides them a massive advantage when it comes to shipbuilding capacity, he said. In a protracted conflict, China's shipyards would give its navy a significant upper hand. Sized to build at wartime rates, they would be able to quickly accelerate production, replace lost ships, and repair damaged ones. That is a capability U.S. shipyards brought to fight during World War II, building Allied vessels faster than German U-boats could sink them. Today, America's shipyards are struggling to keep up with peacetime demand. Submarines are bogged down by maintenance delays, and new ones are behind schedule. The Navy, for instance, is expecting 2 new Virginia-class submarines a year, but is receiving the boats at a rate of 1.4, a Defense Department official said last year. There isn't enough trained labor. Dry docks are in short supply, and in these cases, and in the case of some critical components, only a handful of vendors are still standing. This is especially troubling, U.S. strategists say, in light of what Ukraine conflict has shown. Wars can last a long time, and fighting them requires industry. America's weapons factories have struggled to keep up with Ukraine's battlefields. Its munition makers and the shipyards aren't ready for war with China. If the U.S. intervened in conflict over Taiwan, American forces would need to stop Chinese ships from reaching the island and discharging equipment and thousands of troops. Each side would try to make as many enemy ships off the board as possible to prevent those ships from firing their missiles. In such a scenario, both sides would need to quickly get their damaged ships back into play, repaired, ready to re-enter combat, and able to use their firepower. The U.S. would struggle to ramp up shipbuilding and repair facilities mid-war, not least because modern shipyards workers need to be trained. China would have no such troubles. Its advantage is visible on an island near Shanghai, at the mouth of the river Yangtze. 2 immense shipyards are now located on the island, known as Changxing, concentrating a great deal of ship-making power in one place. Changxing Island is being transformed into a colossal shipbuilding base, wrote the Center in May report. The build-up started with the relocation of the Jiangnan shipyard to its island from central Shanghai through the year 2005 and 2006 to 2006. That was followed by the transfer of a second shipyard, Hudong, Zhonghua, which is still underway. The shipyards belongs to subsidiaries of China State Shipbuilding Corp, a state-owned behemoth, whose clients range from the Chinese Navy to foreign shipping lines. French shipping giant this last year signed a $3 billion deal with it for 16 container ships after ordering 22 vessels 2 years before that. Taiwanese shipping company Evergreen Marine also sends large contracts this way. Satellite images from May obtained from this company showed Jiangnan's vast facility. Around 24 ships are visible at the busy yard. Some are new, others appear to be in for refurbishment or repairs. There are what appear to be container ships, destroyers, and China's third aircraft carrier, known as this. Where we used to see some levels of division between the commercial side of things and the military side of things, those lines have just become increasingly blurred, said these people who closely follows developments in Chinese shipbuilding. Satellite images of Jiangnan analyzed by CSIS in recent years captured an Evergreen vessel docked alongside 3 Chinese warships, and in another instance, the identifiable green of an Evergreen hull next to the Chinese aircraft carrier. A dry dock used for the carrier was earlier occupied by a container ship being built for this company. This analysis showed, suggesting that resources were being shared between the commercial and military side of operations. When foreign companies pay the Chinese shipyard, a portion of those proceeds is very likely reinvested in the shipyard, said these people. If the piers and dry docks and assembly halls that are being invested in are also the piers and dry docks and assembly halls that are used to produce military vessels. How do you write that? To This is the upshot. Upshot 这一部分就是我昨天后面自己看到的 upshot 是一个 conclusion outcome 的意思 ，final result. All these countries that are buying ships from China are paying them to build the shipyards they would need to repair their fleet in wartime, he said, adding, "It is kind of hard to watch. It is kind of hard to watch." So this company didn't respond to a request for comment. Evergreen said that its vessels were being built by the commercial department of China State Shipbuilding Corp, which it said was separate from the company's military department. Evergreen's shipbuilding contracts are of a purely civil commercial nature, it said. China's Navy fills 它这里是个动词 fills 370 battle force ships, more than the US Navy. That number is expected to rise by 2030. Its shipyards are building increasingly sophisticated warships, such as the large and well-equipped Renhai class surface combatant. They have also built the world's largest coast guard and fishing fleets and an extensive merchant marine, adding to China's sea power. The US Navy is expected, meanwhile, to stay the same size or get smaller in the next several years, from the present, retiring more ships than it commissions before it starts to grow again. The logistics support and sea lift fleet that helps the military is aging. The US Navy has superior platforms than China's, such as a large number of aircraft carriers, but the naval strategists increasingly argue that fleet size also matters. The bigger, the better. Okay, these people says he's looking hard at shipbuilding. He says he has directed a review of the causes of U.S. shipbuilding problems and seeking recommendations for shipbuilding industrial base that provides combat capabilities that our warfighters need on a schedule that is relevant. In October, he visited a privately owned shipyard not far from San Francisco. The area was home to one of the busiest naval shipyards during World War II, a symbol of the glory days of the U.S. shipbuilding, much like Changxing Island is of China's shipbuilding might today. This island Mare Island Naval Shipyard built 17 nuclear-powered submarines in a decade after the war before it was closed down in the mid-90s. History demonstrates a clear pattern. No great naval power has ever existed without also being a dominant commercial maritime power, encompassing both shipbuilding and global shipping. 这篇文章真的好长，然后我们读完它都花很多时间，然后它讲了很多内容。其实主要的一个中心思想就是说，中共呢，它的这个军用的造船和民用的这个造船，其实上它是共用的，所以它因为这个资源可以让它的军事力量、海军力量发展的非常快。但是美国呢，它是分开的，所以而且在美国现在的这个环境，它这个海军力量，特别是舰船的这个方面的建造呢，它是 shrink， 就是已经在衰退了。所以这就是为什么这篇文章的标题它非常sharp and straightforward 的 point out 这个 China's shipyards 中国的船厂。其实为了一场持续的战争，它已经做好准备了，但是美国显然还没有。而且从乌克兰的这个战况来说的话呢，一场战争它可能持续很久，它是需要一个产业去做支撑的。显然美国是没有达到这样的一个环境。那么这篇文章读下来了，我们来看一下我们之前记录的生词，以及可以运用到生活当中的一些 idioms 一些俚语。第一个就是 protract 了 ，protract、prolong、extend， 就是持续的 prolong。然后 disarray 就是一列一行的意思 ，disarray 就是混乱的 disorder，lack of sequence。朋友们可以尝试回忆一下，我们在什么样的语境看到这个词的 in disarray。这个 disarray 经常跟 in， 比如说 the room is totally in disarray，like the table is totally in disarray 就是完全没有的，或者是 It's okay，我们不要再想了，节约一点时间。In disarray, lack of order or sequence。然后 feat action did，它这个 action 和 did 呢，一般是指的 something that is notable，in its courage, especially for courage，充满勇气的一个行为，或者是一个牵扯到很多技术和持之以恒、坚持的一个行为，或者是一个产品。我们可以 feat 就 a performer， 我们可以造句 a performer known for her astonishing feats， 这是一个可数名词，所以它有复数的 feats an exceptional feat of the human intellect. Writing that whole report also, was such a feat, right? Feat. Prolific. 有另外一个它的衍生词就是 proliferate， 那个词呢也是 expand 或者是 increase in such a 就是非常快的扩張和增长的一个蔓延的 proliferate 形容词，它是这个词 prolific 也是形容词，它们两个就可以一起记起来 proliferate。它的词根的意思呢，都是多产的 productive, fruitful. Okay, a prolific composer, a prolific writer, a prolific actress. Shrivel 就是 shrunk，shrivel 在那篇文章当中和 shrunk 它是其实可以替换的。Shrivel to become reduced to helplessness and inefficiency. Shrivel 就是衰落了，衰退了。Next to nothing， 这个是一个 idiom。Next to nothing, very little. Next to nothing， 我们可以这样记 ，nothing 就没有嘛，完全没有。Next to nothing 就在完全没有的旁边就是一点点 ，very little. I've had next to nothing to eat. We know next to nothing about our ancestors. I know next to nothing about her. I know next to nothing about the book, something, right? It costs next to nothing. Cost me a little. They did next to nothing to help their neighbors. The dancers were wearing next to nothing， 就完全没有穿什么。Fathom， 昨天有一个朋友给我留言了，我有看到您的留言，对，跟我解释了这个 fathom。他说这个 fathom 是古早时期的美国丈量河道的一个单位。那在这个文章的语境呢，当时是说的 hard to fathom， 就是 hard to fathom， 就是难以丈量，那是难以揣测。非常有帮助。有这样一个词汇的历史背景的话呢，对于记这个词确实非常有更加深刻一些。所以朋友们，有什么就是可以补充帮助大家更好的去记忆这个一些词啊，一些 idiom 的背景啊，都可以在留言跟我分享。那包括这样的形式，大家觉得有没有帮助，或者是觉得有什么需要改进的地方，都请留言告诉我，因为我是完全不知道你们会有什么样的。现在我还没有收到一些反馈哦，你们看下来，我是希望能够帮助我自己，又能够帮助你们，所以呢，我会尽量的找到一个中间都适合我们双方的一条路，一个模式吧。Fathom， 那这个 hard to fathom 就难以揣测 ，hard to probe、hard to measure 就很好记了。Dwarf， 我们在那个语境当中，那篇文章是dwarf，the way to the extent in which the Chinese shipyards the Chinese shipyard to the extent that Chinese submarine dwarfed American was incredible, was unbelievable, something like that. 所以 dwarf 就是矮化的 ，dwarfed 它可以做名词 verb 矮化和矮的 low growing a dwarf peach tree dwarf crank out 就是讲 carry out generate， 但是它是 more mechanical manner crank out 记得 crank out sprawl 我记得我当时第一次在看的时候，我回忆是另外一个意思，但其实我错了 sprawl 就是扩张。irregularly 就是完全 out of control, less restraint 没有限制的扩张。The kids sprawled on the floor TV and watched TV. Sprawl 它的那个 physically 的一个意思就是把你的legs and hand stretch out 就是 spread out。sprawling narrative backlog， 朋友们可以回一下 backlog。我们当时讲了 accumulated tasks that are unperformed， 就是没有完成的 backlog。This is totally a backlog. I have absolutely a backlog of something to do. Right, backlog. Paucity, smallest in number and quantity. Paucity. Upper hand, advantage, upper hand. Okay, finally we reached upper hand in this race. Finally gained the upper hand in the argument. Bogged down 就是being stuck or cause something to think in the wet ground， 就是 being bogged down， 就是大概可以感觉到那个画面啊 ，bogged down。然后或者是经常是受什么困惑，受制于 in details， 被什么get stuck 了，就是意象的一个意思。Easy to get bogged down in details. A handful of， 就是你可以这样记 a handful of， 就是用手都可以数得来的一个形容，那就是 a small number of, right? A small number of them, a small number of people, a handful of, in light of, in view of, in consideration of。就是我们经常 in light of， 比如说我们要谈论一个什么，至于关于什么的 in light of something。ammunition 就是跟 military 相关的 supply military weapons。not list especially particularly we had many things to consider, not least the safety of our children, not least particularly the safety of our children. Subsidiary second importance, subsidy 跟 subsidy 有关的 subsidiary。 upshot outcome final result。Field 就是我刚刚 point out 那个地方 field 它这里是做一个动词 to take care of or respond to something such as telephone call or request， 这个用的比较少的。She has been fielding offers from potential buyers. Fielding offers, taking care of or respond, to these offers from potential buyers. Been fielding offers. To put into the field 就是 field an army， 这个是一个动词，就是刚刚我们干的那个，刚刚我们看这个地方，你看 China's Navy fields 就是 put into field。Fields 370 battle force ships。一般我们 field 这个词用的名词比较多，所以它作为动词的时候，实际上是一个有点意思。Field an army。这就是我们通过这篇文章收获到的词汇了。朋友们也可以记一下，如果有对自己有新词的话，可以记下来，然后经常会回顾一下。我们在接下来的几天呢，会不断的回来看这个 list 的，这样子的话可以加深我们的记忆。OK， 好，现在已经23分钟过去了，我们花了一半的时间，那么我们要赶紧进行今天的这个工作了。今天的工作呢，我为大家挑选了另外一篇文章，也是《华尔街日报》的。这篇文章是关于什么的呢？ It's been 30 years since food ate up this much of your income。 关于美国的这个在食品上的花销，现在就是说美国通胀嘛。It's been 30 years 就是有30年了。Since food ate up this much of your income， food 吃掉了你的收入的这么多的钱。Ate up 它这个就拟人了，就很有意思。Ate up this much of your income。 Ongoing high costs lead food manufacturers and restaurants to keep prices elevated。 朋友们一定要读，我发现有时候我会看文章的时候我会默读心里读，但其实呢要读我的嘴巴才可以。第一个 pronounce more clear， 就是嘴巴够快。第二个的话呢可以锻炼一种语感出来。第三个对 gradually 的话其实上会加强你的记忆以及对英语的熟悉程度。 OK，那我们来看一下这篇文章，还是一样快速的读一下，看看这篇文章讲什么。The last time Americans spent this much of their money on food, George H.W. Bush was in office. Okay, Terminal 2, Judgment Day was in theaters and C+C Music Factory was rocking the Billboard charts. 这一段就说了，上一次美国人花这么多钱在食物上，还是 George H.W. Bush 在位的时候。然后他就回忆了一下当时什么电影在电影院，然后这个Music Factory was rocking Billboard's chart， 就是这个 Music Factory 在 Billboard 上面就看到很多，回忆了那个时代一个画面感啊。Eating continues to cost more, even as overall inflation has eased from the blistering pace consumers endured throughout much of 2022 and 2023. Prices at restaurants and other eateries or eateries? I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Eateries, I believe it's eateries, but I'll look it up later on, okay? Were up 5.1% last month compared with January 2023, while grocery costs increased 1.2% during the same period, Labor Department data show. OK， 这一段就讲了 ，eating continues to cost more， 就是在食物上花的钱是继续越来越多了。尽管这个整体的美国的通胀呢已经消退了。From the blistering pace 就是 very rapid pace， 很快的。这个词呢我知道，但是我们还是查一下啊 ，blistering， extremely intense or severe. Blistering, extremely intense or severe, very rapid, a blistering pace. 记得 a blistering pace. OK， 我也还是记下来吧。Blistering， 它就是一个形容词，所以它就是一个形容词的两个意思 ：extremely intense or severe。Blistering heat 就是非常的高的热量，热。Very rapid, a blistering pace. Okay, a blistering pace. 好 ，From the blistering pace consumers endured throughout much of 2022 and 2023. 这个应该是一个定语来形容这个 blistering pace。什么样的高速的一个节奏呢？非常快的一个节奏呢？是 consumer endured， 消费者在2022年到2023年大多时间都经历的。这是一个，所以这句话 eating continues to cost more, even as overall inflation has eased。就这句话应该就是完了，这句话到这里就是这句话的中心思想了。然后 from the blistering pace 就是 from the blistering pace consumers endured throughout much of 2022 and 2023. Prices at restaurants and other eateries were up to， 所以他就说了一组数据，这个我翻译好难啊，好麻烦，好浪费时间，我不翻译了吧？我相信大家应该能看得懂。我组织语言好困难。Prices at restaurants and other eateries 就是 compared to with January 20， 在1月份的时候，它这个餐馆和其他 cafe entries 就是小的 cafe 小餐馆涨了 5.1%， 然后 grocery costs 就是日用品涨了 1.2%。Relief isn't likely to arrive soon， 就这个 relief 放松，这个 ease 好像还没有这么快的会到来。Restaurants and food company executives said they are still grappling with rising labor costs and some ingredients such as cocoa that are only getting more expensive. Consumers, they say, will find ways to cope. 餐馆和食物公司呢，他们说他们还是在still grappling with， 就是我知道这个意思，但是呢，这个 grappling 可能我们还是要看看 grappling，所以我应该搜 grapple。hand-to-hand struggle, a hand-to-hand struggle, grapple, a contest for superiority or mastery, grapple, verb to seize with, or as if with a grapple, to grasp with the hands, to bind closely， 就是你知道 grapple， 哎，我们不如来查一下这个，我看看啊 grapple， 看看图片啊。这个，所以你就知道了这个是什么了 grapple。看这些。Okay, grapple. It's hard to say in Chinese, but I think you guys know what it's about. Still grappling 可以被 change struggle 吧 struggle still struggling with high rising labor costs 就是不断上涨的人工以及一些原料费，比如说这个可可，它们变得越来越昂贵了。Consumers, they said, 他们说呢 consumers 消费者可以找到方法去 cope with 有一个词组 cope with 就是应对处理去 cope。 If you look historically after periods of inflation, there is really no period you could point to where food prices go back down. 如果你从历史上去看过往的这个通胀的周期的话，现在其实你很难找到 really no period you would point to where 你很难去找到什么时候这个食物的价格会下降再回去。They tend to be sticky. 他们 tend to 就是 tend to 就是怎么讲 tend to be sticky. 他们看起来会继续 sticky 就是黏住的，就是继续保持这个状态，就是维持这个状态。They tend to be sticky. 这个 sticky 实际上是形容的这个prices, high prices, sticky, stick to high price. In 1991, US consumers spent 11.4% of their disposal personal income on food. Disposal personal income 就是个人可以支配的、可以花的 income， 就是在收入当中个人可以支配的部分 on food. According to data from at the time, households were still dealing with steep food price increases following an inflationary period during the 1970s. Steep food price increases, 你看 steep food price increases. Steep 就是陡峭的，我们形容一个山或者一个悬崖很 steep mountain 就是陡峭的。Food prices increase 陡峭的上涨 following inflationary period during the 1970s. More than 3 decades later, 30多年后 food spending has reattained that level. 重新回到了 that level. 这个 in 2022, consumers spent 11.3% of their disposal income on food, according to the most recent data. 2022年的时候，消费者花了11.3%的他们的个人支配收入在食物上面。Many diners. This is what? I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay, 我们来查一下。Diner, a person who dines. Okay, dining. 我们都知道 dining 嘛，就吃 dine， 那就 diner 就是谁在吃饭的那些人。Many diners have said they are going out less frequently or skipping appetizers while buying cheaper store brands more frequently at supermarkets and seeking out promotions or deals offered via apps. That is starting that I forgot to 按掉它，所以它一直在叫，不好意思。That is starting to chip away at some sales for food makers and restaurant operators. 很多吃饭的人呢，说他们现在就是出去吃的少了，然后也会略过这个前菜。同时呢， 去选择更加便宜的一些品牌去买，然后 seeking out promotions 去外面寻找那些优惠券，一些 app 提供的一些优惠券和折扣码。That is starting to chip away at some sales. Starting to chip away at some sales for food makers and restaurant operators. Starting to chip away, chip away 就是 chip， 你看 chip away 一点一点的削减 ，gradually like make it small, weaker, make it weaker, chip away 这也是一个词组。Gradually, starting to chip away at some sales 就是对于一些食物生产商的销售额和餐馆营业者的销售额就减少了嘛，因为这些吃饭的人不去吃了，然后也选择更加便宜的东西买了。Food companies said they are feeling pinched themselves. Pinch 就是这个动作 pinch 捏，就是很紧的 pinch themselves 捏紧。While commodities 是商品货物 commodities such as corn, wheat, coffee beans, and chicken have gotten cheaper. Prices for sugar, beef, French fries are still high or rising. Companies across the U.S. economy have also raised prices beyond covering their own higher expenses, lifting profits for industries including retail, biotech, and manufacturing. 好，食物公司呢说他们现在很紧的，很受压了。While 商品 such as 就是玉米啊、麦片啊这些东西啊、chicken 啊变便宜了，但是呢，像糖啊、牛肉啊、薯条啊还在涨，而且是仍然非常高。美国的公司呢 raise prices， 他们同样的涨价了 ，beyond covering their own high expenses。beyond covering their own high expenses， 就是除了 cover 他们的这个更涨上来的花费之外呢，他们同时还增高了价格，就是抬价了嘛。Lifting profits for industries， 就是因为他们要利润。For industries including 在这些领域 retail, biotech and manufacturing， 他们要利润，所以除了 cover 减去他们的已经变高的成本之外，他们还涨价了，然后为了收益嘛。Food inflation have raised the I'm not sure 这个怎么读啊？我们查一下 diners ire intense and usually openly displayed anger。ire 是一个相当于 fume， 对吧？就是 anger 的意思，展示出来的 ire。看看 synonym fury, rage, mad, outrage, anger. Okay, ire has raised the ire of President Biden. 食物的通胀，食物方面的涨价呢，让 President Biden 让拜登总统的这个火气升高了。Who took to Instagram during the Super Bowl to blast food makers that he said were providing less bang for consumers' buck, putting fewer chips in each bag or shrinking the size of ice cream containers. Who took to Instagram during the Super Bowl to blast 就是大声谴责 food makers that 这 food makers 干嘛的呢 that 后面是补充 he said 说了什么 were providing less bang for consumers' buck. Less bang for consumers' buck. Less bang for consumers' buck. 我大概可以感觉到这个意思，但是呢 less bang for consumers' buck 就是给 consumer 的这个收获少了吧，对吧 ？Less bang for consumers' buck because putting fewer chips in each bag， 每个 bag 里面每个袋子里的 chips 变少了，然后这个 ice cream 盒子变小了，就里面的 ice cream 变少了。但是这个 less bang for consumers' buck， 我不知道我们还是查一下啊。Bang for consumers buck， 我来查一下这个有没有 less bang。Bang for someone's buck， 所以它是一个词组啊。 bang verb，这都是 bang 的解释 ，bang phrases OK bang for the buck。Less commonly, bang for one's buck or bang for the dollar, bang for one's dollar. U.S. informal， 这是美国常用的，然后是一个非正式的 bang for one's buck, bang for the buck, value received from outlay or effort. Okay, value received from outlay or effort. Investment is yielding less bang for the buck. 所以 less bang for the buck 就是更少的 value 了 ，received 了。那就是我刚刚估的那个意思。Investment is yielding less bang for the buck. Bang for the buck, very 这个很有意思啊，很形象。Bang for the buck, bang for one's buck, or bang for the dollar, bang for one's dollar. 那我们可以把这句话So President Biden blasted on Instagram that he said food makers were providing less bang for consumers' buck because they were putting less fewer chips in each bag and shrinking the size of the ice cream container. Good. 这个其实很值得记下来的，朋友们可以多读一下，然后把它记下来。OK， 这是一个new文档。The American public is tired of being played for suckers. Biden said, "I've had enough of what they call shrinkflation. Shrinkflation is a rip-off. Rip-off 就是rip-off. I've been ripped off. 比如说我们去泰国某个地方旅游啊，被很敲大了一笔。It's a rip-off. I've been ripped off. 就这样 rip-off. So I've had enough of what they call shrinkflation. Shrinkflation. 我不知道这个是什么意思，我们来查一下。Shrinkflation 是通缩吗？ Shrinkflation is a rise in the general price level of goods per unit of weight or volume brought about by a reduction in the weight of size of the item sold. Okay, so inflation was common for beverages. 在食物和饮料上面是最常见的 consists of reducing the product size while maintaining its retail price. OK， 就是价格一样，但是里面的含量其实变少了，叫 shrinkflation。shrinkflation。所以这个 shrinkflation 其实就可以指的是就是 Biden 说的这个问题，就是 providing less bang for consumers' buck, right? OK, shrinkflation. David 这个人 from this company, which represents major food manufacturers, said the industry offers many choices at different price points. We hope to work with the president on real solutions that benefit consumers. OK， 这个话的言外之意好像是说这个 We hope to work with the president on real solutions， 就是能够拿出真正的、有效的、切实有效的解决方法。去 benefit 消费者，去让消费者受益，所以相当于是一个反驳吧，一个含蓄的反驳，对于拜登的那个指控。In suburban Chicago, Lisa said her food bills are rising faster than her family's income. 她的这个关于食物上的花销比她整个家庭的收入涨得还要快。Leading them to make their own granola 是这样读的吗 ？Granola from scratch and pack their own snacks for the movie. From scratch 应该是从最开，就是 from the scratch 从一点一点的。Scratch 我们都知道什么意思啊？ Phrases from scratch. OK， 确实是 from a point at which nothing has been done ahead of time. From scratch, from the beginning. 可以这样理解。From scratch, from the get-go. From scratch, without using a prepared mixture of ingredients. 这个就更像了，就更像他说的这个意思了。 From a point at which nothing has been done ahead of time built. Had been done ahead of time. Okay. Build a school system from scratch. 就是从零开始吧，从零开始。Without using a prepared mixture of ingredients. Bake a cake from scratch. 从头开始。Okay, from scratch and pack their own snacks for the movies. Everything is negotiation. Everything is a negotiation, an analysis about a budget. Okay. Is exhausting. Everything is a negotiation and analysis about a budget, said an occupational therapist. Is exhausting. 这句话怎么理解呢？ Everything is a negotiation. 每件事都是一个 negotiation. Negotiation 我们叫谈判，谈判。We can negotiate. 我们可以谈这个事情，就是商讨。Everything is a negotiation. OK, 我明白了。所以他应该说，对所有的事情，在这么高的物价之下，所有的事情都变成了一个商讨，一个衡量吧，就是要看看对于自己的这个 budget 预算，要做一个分析，然后他就形容这个过程，就是可能买东西的过程变成了一个 negotiation， 就是头脑双方都要 negotiate 啊，我要不要买这种之类的。It's exhausting， 就非常消耗，非常让人 exhausting， 消耗的、枯竭的，就是耗尽了的。Denny's, Wendy's, and other restaurant chains told investors this month that their guest counts fell last year compared with 2022 levels as consumers in particular 我们可以换成我们之前学的那个not list right not list in particular those with lower incomes feel the financial pinch. Big food makers including have reported that their sales volumes declined as prices rose for the products, with several reporting a hit to profits in the last fiscal year. Reporting a hit to profits in the last fiscal year, and others an increase. 这些餐饮行就是告诉投资人，这个月呢，他们的客流量去年这个月的他们的客流量减少了，较2022年的同期来说减少了，特别是那些低收入者感受到了经济压力的这些低收入者，那些大的食品制造商这几家公司呢reported 就报告说他们的这个销量 declined 下降了，就是因为这个物价上涨了，他们产品的价格上涨了。With several reporting 就是只有一点点报告了 a hit to profits， 只有一点点就是报告他们这个收益达到了一个高度 hit to profits in the last fiscal year 在last fiscal year 就是上一个财政年度，但是大部分其他的呢都是 with others an increase， 就其他只是涨。Oreo maker said in January it would continue rising prices on some of its products this year. 奥利奥的制造商说了，这个奥利奥呢还有的涨 largely because of cocoa prices, which earlier in February surged past a 46-year record. 就是可可粉的这个价格呢已经飞涨到了46年的高度，一年来的最高度。他说这个 month expects more expensive cocoa to cut into company's profit this year. 就这个月的这个 cocoa 的成本越来越高了嘛，那 company's profit 就是公司利润就要变少了。 The inflation is moderating, but that its costs are still higher. Inflation 就通胀已经温和了，但是其实它的花费还是非常高的。Driven in part by pricier tomatoes, driven in part by pricier tomatoes and sugar， 因为这个更贵的西红柿和糖，所以它的对于这个自找上来说，它的成本还是非常好的，非常高。尽管这个通胀看起来是温和了。OK， 这个句子你看非常很有值得分析的哦。他说了 ，inflation is moderating, but that its costs are still higher, driven 就是它是形容这个 costs 是受什么推动的呢 ？driven in part 部分的 by pricier。pricier 有时候我们更贵的可以说 more expensive pricier， 这是另外一种话 pricier tomatoes and sugar 就更 short and straightforward。Companies are set to pay more for stuffing after 22 states in January lifted the minimum wage for hourly workers。公司也要给更多的钱给员工了，因为呢，22个州在1月份的时候呢，它都把最低这个小时的时限的薪资给涨了。Hiring skilled workers like mechanics to replace employees who retired during the pandemic is particularly expensive。就是去雇佣那种有经验的工作，去替代那些employees who retired。Mechanics to replace employees， 去取代那些在疫情期间退休的员工是非常的贵的。Which owns 他这个人说这个话的这个人呢，他有17家食品和饮料 plants， 这个就也很 plants， 我们都知道 plants 是什么植物，就是供应的，也可以说food and beverage plants。It's okay， 我们还是搜一下，我觉得我很难解释的到位。To put or set in the ground for growth, right? Plant seed， 就是种嘛，种种子，种东西，这是一个 verb。Plants 它有个名词 a young tree， any of a kingdom， 这个 a land building apparatus mixture employed in carrying on a trade or business or industrial business。 OK plant， 所以它有这个意思就是 land buildings machinery apparatus a factory plant， 所以它是对，就直接是有这个意思 plants that make Pillsbury cake mixes and other products。 Restaurant chain， 我觉得我这个发的不够标准，听一下怎么发的 chain supply chain 对吧 chain supply chain restaurant chains said they're trying to operate more efficiently to help defray wage increases, but they also expect to rise prices. Help to defray 就是补充、弥补、抵消。Defray to provide for the payment of pay. To bear the expenses of a person. Defray 就是 pay 的意思了 pay. Sold advertising on his website to help defray the cost of running it. 也有这个 pay 和抵消划去 to bear the expense of a person. This will defray the costs. 就是冲抵 defray pay wave 你看 wave 对吧相当于是 wave 不是划去了也是 defray 呢可能还是要 pay to bear the expenses of help defray wage increases. It's a really fast move and a high percent increase, said in an interview referring to California's 25% minimum wage increase for fast food workers employed by large chains set to take effect in April. Pricing is going to be part of the puzzle. OK， 这是一个非常快的行动，并且呢，也是一个非常大幅的涨价。这个人说，他主要指的是加州25%的最低薪资的涨幅，对于这个 fast food workers 就是快餐的员工，然后 employed by large chains by 大的这个供应链所招募的这些员工，要给到最小25%的薪资涨幅。Set to take effect 就是规定在4月份的时候就要执行了。Pricing is going to be part of the puzzle. Pricing 就是这个价格是一个很大的问题，是一个问题了。Part of the puzzle 就是这个puzzle 我们都知道嘛，那个拼图 part of the puzzle 就是整个板块游戏当中的一个部分了。挺有意思的，他们这个英语说的就是很有意思啊，有趣。Some restaurant and food companies, including 这些are projecting higher earnings this year. Signs of a consumer spending slowdown has led others to temper their outlooks, with Starbucks lowering its same-store sales projection for 2024 and a frozen food maker reducing its per-share earnings forecast. OK， 这些食品和餐馆公司呢，在 projecting higher earnings this year。这个 projecting 我们都知道是什么意思，但是我觉得它这里是有另外一个意思，我们要收一下。projecting 这是明显是一个动词，那我们看 project 的动词 to devise in mind design OK 就是规划 design plan figure estimate for future project throw or cast forward thrust to put or set forth present for consideration project to cause to jut out to cause light or shadow to fall into space project, okay, to reproduce something such as a point, a line area on the surface by motion in a prescribed direction, project, to display outwardly, especially to an audience, to attribute one's own ideas to other people or to objects. Okay, project 有很多，这些都是很多的意思，推到前面project 脑海当中的 design plan OK 投影 attribute 展现 to other people objects OK give an impression to make oneself heard clearly projectable get yourself heard clearly So are projecting higher earnings this year. Projecting， 我觉得这里的 projecting higher earnings this year 就是 estimate， 应该是个 estimate for the future， 就是预计这个今年会有更高的收益。Signs of consumer spending slowdown， 消费者花的钱越来越少的这个趋向呢，会反而让其他的这个公司temper their outlooks. Temper 就是 temper 我们的脾气 temper 这也是一个动词 temper their outlooks. Outlooks 我们知道比如说去一个山它就会有很多 outlooks 景观景点嘛给你看景色的那叫 outlook. 那 outlooks 就是看法观点这个对怎么说呢 outlooks 就是他的看法就是对就是跟那个景点的那个你可以联想起来我们看那 outlooks 就是我们的看法的观点这样子 temper noun 名词 Mind emotion 这个我们都知道名词，就是动词的话呢 moderate 它就是温和的 temper justice with mercy to make stronger, more resilient through hardship, toughen, tempered in battle to bring to a suitable state by mixing in or adding a usual liquid ingredient. Temper, okay. Temper, moderate their outlooks 就是对于他们这个他们的看法反而降低了。比如说像 Starbucks， 它就把它的 same store sales projection for 2024 2024年的这个projection 愿景，它其实上降低了。然后 Frozen Food Maker 它也 reducing 降低了它的 per share earnings forecast， 就是 per share earnings。per share earnings 应该是一个术语，我搜一下啊。Earning per share is calculated as the company's profit divided by the outstanding shares of its common stock. OK， OK， 股市的跟上市跟股市有关。对它这个反正这个东西吧，它也降低了，它的预期降低了。好 ，investors have 现在我看一下现在到什么时候了？现在已经1个小时了 ，time flies。那我们今天就到这里吧，然后明天把这个剩下的部分看完，好不好？今天目前来看，好像这篇文章没有像那个之前的一篇出现那么多的生词，但是 a good sign. Okay, I'll stop here now. So take care until next time. I'll catch you with you guys tomorrow. Bye.